Welcome to the pacing tip of the month. Today I'll continue the series about Dr. Franklin's 3 stages of ME. I'm going to talk about the second stage, the stabilising stage. As the name says, this stage is about greater and greater stabilisation of the illness. Activity level is kept fairly stable, and the symptoms begin to calm down. Instead of huge peaks of severe symptoms, the course evens out gradually, and the illness activity in the body slowly subsides a little. This graph shows an example of an activity diary for a person in the stabilising stage. Let's see. This is the activity level, which, as you can see, is very stable. And here's the symptom level, which is a bit up and down, but only really one notch. Here it goes from 6 to 7, and down here it's from 5 to 6. So, as I said, it's a bit up and down, but there's a general downward trend, and there are no big peaks. In the early stages of the stabilising stage, the stabilisation tends to be very fragile, and any excess activity tends to destabilise the entire illness. Dr. Franklin also pointed this out. Towards the end of the stabilising stage, the stabilisation will be much more established, and you'll have a much better safety margin. As I said in my last video, we can help the body reach the stabilising stage by stabilising the activity level at a level which does not cause flare-ups of symptoms, neither during the day nor from day to day. Basically, by doing that, we create a safety margin. If we're very close to our upper limit, anything will throw us over that limit and will cause small setbacks. If, however, we lower activity somewhat, we give ourselves a safety margin which works as a buffer. And with time, that safety margin usually becomes real improvement. And even if it doesn't, it still makes life a whole lot easier because it prevents lots of small relapses and setbacks. One of the challenges of the stabilising stage is to keep the activity level stable enough over time. It varies a lot how fast the stabilising process happens. Some people find that they see a very significant stabilisation in just 2 or 3 weeks, whereas others need to go on for months before things really begin to calm down. And no matter how fast it goes, you're going to wish it were faster than it is. So finding some good tricks to help you really does help. And some of the things that help is to have rules and routines. A rule could be, for instance, that you can cope with 1 big activity per day but not 2, or 2 but not 3. So if you're very ill, you might be well enough to be washed in bed or have a short phone call, but not both. Or if you're moderately ill, you might cope with a short shopping trip or a visit from a friend, but not both. And this really helps with planning. So if you know that you're going to the doctor's on Thursday, then you can plan your visit on another day and prevent a crash from doing both on the same day. You can also have some routine to your day. If you have some set rest breaks and set meal times, planning the rest of the day will be a lot easier. For instance, you might know that you can cope with 2 small activities between lunch and dinner, for instance, and that really helps with planning. For instance, it gives you the possibility of planning both something work-related or less fun, like making dinner or doing a bit of schoolwork, and something enjoyable, something you really like to do and which makes life worth living. And that's the second very important thing here. Doing something enjoyable every day. That really makes the difference. And the great thing about pacing is that it enables you to actually do that. I mean, if you plan only what you can actually cope with, um, you know that you will be well enough to do that next activity period. Okay, if I stop now and have rest, then I know I'll be able to do something fun afterwards. I don't feel I have to push myself now because maybe I won't be well enough later on or whatever. And doing a little bit every day really builds up. I've been amazed at what is possible to achieve with literally just 5 minutes a day, or even less. I mean, this book I just showed you my graph from. I'll try to find the front page here. Here, I dictated this in 1 minute snippets, most of it, and had it read to me in periods of 3.5 minutes at a time so that I could edit it. Towards the end of the process, I managed to listen to it for 7 minutes at a time, and then I told my PAs what to write instead if I didn't want to write what I'd written. It took me 10 years to complete the book, but my health actually improved drastically during that time, even though I was working on the book. And the book actually became a book. I would never have been able to write it if I tried to do it the normal way. And by pacing my way through it, it was fully possible and didn't damage my health. And it's possible to do that with other projects as well, whatever you enjoy. Maybe you don't like writing, but you'll like something else. And most things can be adapted. So basically, the way to get through the stabilizing stage is to use pacing to have a better life. And I find it really useful to have a double strategy. On the one hand, I use pacing and other management strategies to make my life as good as possible here and now. They improve my symptoms and my quality of life now, and they also optimize my chances of improvement in the long term. But on top of that, I make sure I do something enjoyable every day, because that makes my life as enjoyable as possible. And if I should get well, I'll be able to look back on my illness and say that it was as good as it could be. And if I don't get well, my life will still have been as good as it could be in the circumstances. So I win no matter what. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about the third of Franklin's 3 stages, the remission stage. So I'll see you then. Thanks for listening.